Thank you. Okay. That means that I was recorded as well. Yeah, so setters and getters were the only thing asked here. So with the setters and getters being the only thing asked here, that's all you required for those ones. Setters and getters. So you just alt insert setters and getters. You then choose I want it for age restriction and title. It didn't require for author, so I don't have to do that. If you do that, you will not be deducted any marks. The next thing it asked for was to generate a toString. So alt insert, I generate my toString. Now that there, for you guys, is literally worth, I think it's between 10 and 13 marks. So you get 10 and 13 marks for literally, you have to code this, and you have to add default values to this, and the rest of it's just alt insert. So you're literally getting 13 marks for very, very little work whatsoever. So in this case now, it then asked me to create a second class. We go back to the question called pupil, with pupil number, pupil name, and age. Now, as far as a system designer is concerned, that's relatively stupid, isn't it? To store age, or to hold age, isn't it? What would we hold? Date of birth, because it would change periodically. So you wouldn't actually store it as a, but only because you guys have only dealt with integers and strings, because those are the only data types you've handled, and I haven't shown you how to do string manipulation, we wouldn't do that. And you'd actually create a method called getAge. So you would store the date of birth, but you would create a method called getAge, and that method getAge would then use the date of birth to determine the age and use the current system clock time, and then it would return the physical age of the person. So that's how that would be done, but you haven't learned that yet. So literally we just have pupil number, pupil name, age, default constructor, fully parameterized constructor, some setters and getters for age and for pupil number, and then a toString. So if we go back to our code, we're now going to create a pupil class. Yes, question? Anyway, so the next step we wanted to make the pupil, so a new Java class, we call it pupil. You'll notice that I tend to get rid of the comments. You guys don't have to, I just don't like all those comments lying around. For me it just feels a bit iffy. In your exams I would suggest you put this as being your name, just so we can see who's, it's got an extra bit of security. We then needed a pupil number. Let me pause the video quickly. It was, the first field was pupil number, right? So private int. And one thing you'll notice that, perhaps this is more for next year, but generally speaking, entities will have unique identifying components. So it would have an attribute which uniquely identifies it. So for example, even GUI components have a name or object name which has to uniquely identify it, which is directly an attribute, but not the point. Okay, so private string, I think it was then name, if I'm correct. It then asked for p name, and then the last one was private int age, which we don't like storing, but in this case we are. Alright, constructors, alt insert constructors to generate our default. Our default we make sure is initialized with all our default values. Pupil number, the default of an integer is 0. The default of a string is blank, and a default of okay, so now the next thing we're going to do is the fully parameterized constructor, so we take all of them, and then it asks for a setter and getter, and only wanted a setter and getter of pupil number and age. You guys are very, very, very welcome just to tick all of them. I've got no problem with that. It's just, I'm just going to leave it out because I don't want to make the memo too big if it doesn't need to be. And then people will ask, well, why didn't you add that? Or why did you? And generally speaking, yeah. Okay, so toString, done. So that technically right there is 26 marks of our exam if we were going to do it like that. But now if there's a third class in this case, and this one is called log with a pupil P and a book B. So literally all we're going to do, same thing, right click new Java class. We're going to call this a log class. We're going to delete this. The first thing it's got is it's got a pupil private. Firstly, it's got a negative sign in front of it, so the access modifier. Do you guys all know what an access modifier is? Private, public, protected. You guys don't need to protect that. So it's asking for private pupil P. So you actually physically hold the pupil in the log, and private book B. Now, this can have everyone's attention for 2 seconds, even if you're doing your own work. I do want to explain this. In objects, you physically create an object. So look, let's say if we have a book object, a book What does a book object have? It has title, it has author, and it has age, right? Age restriction. I'm just going to say age R, okay? Now you also have another class called pupil, and what does pupil have? Oh yeah, so it's got the age. We stored age in this case, which I know is not right, and we stored PN, and we stored what was the last one? It was name. So people name. Now each of our items have those fields. Everybody, you're paying attention to this because this is important stuff for matric. Okay, as it goes up to matric, this concept. In basically what's happening, if I've got two books, if I've got Sword of Truth, okay, I'm just going to call one book Sword. I'm going to call the other one Fish. Okay. Sword, and there's another book called Fish. Now the author was TR, the author here was Bacon. Bacon wrote something, it was weird. This is age restriction 16, this one's 13. Alright, now the same thing with pupils. We've got one pupil with 1, 2, 3, his name is Frank, and his age is 13. We've got another pupil called 2, 5, 3 is 5, and we've got another one called Bacon. So that's a bad name for someone. Let's call it Junior, okay, Junior, Bacon Junior, yes. Now, age is 16. Now, let's say when these instances exist in memory, if I create and say, okay, I want to create an instance of pupil, I'm going to say, call this instance P1. And this is the pupil Frank. When you actually do it, all I'm doing is I would actually refer to then E12. And if I have a pupil 2, I would then refer to F12. Because that's literally now memory addresses are stored something along these lines though. They're stored in ASCII characters, so they would be A0FD0A, for example. That is a memory reference to an address that is being stored. Okay? So it's the same thing here, but in my case, because I'm using Excel, my memory reference is E12 and F12. Do you guys get this? Okay? Now, the same thing with the book. If I have a book called B1, and that would be referring to E5, and literally everything else will be pointing there. So it will be a block of memory. It's not just the individual memory, because we know it's a book, so we know after it's going to contain this structure. It's going to sort of just be the starting point of it. If anything, you could maybe even call it E4, and you could move everything up to E11 to kind of make it more of a idea. But the memory is in RAM. B2 is equal to F5. Now, when I create a log, so let's say if I created something called L1, I would actually just be saying L1 was taken by, so when I physically create the log entry, the log has what fields in it? It has a book field, right? So it has a book called B book, right? Let's actually call these pupil 1, pupil 2. Let's call this book 1, book 2. Now, when I actually do that, my B1, which is a book class, it just literally also refers to E12. My P1, which is a pupil class, also just refers to, so this is E5, and this is E12. So basically, I'm not creating more than one instance. So when we're using it as parameters, if you create the object in one area, you will just literally be passing the memory reference, so you'll be pointing to the same object just from 2 different locations. So once an object has been created, the object does not get duplicated, you literally just pass pointers. Now in Java, this passing of the pointers is done automatically for classes. However, if anybody ever goes and codes C++, you use a star or an imp, I can't remember, I think it's a star, in front of the variable name, and then that passes the memory reference. Whereas if you don't put a star, it will create a duplicate object of it. So there you have to specify it, whereas in Java, you can just, it automatically assumes for objects, it passes the whole memory reference. And I'm going to explain this again a bit later. I'm going to keep this open. I just wanted you to be aware of this, and I'll go back to it once we finish coding what we're coding. So now we've got pupil P and book B. And we have another one, which was, if we go back to the question paper, states there int date taken. So private int date taken. Okay, semicolon. Now if we go further down, it says they modify the toString for the class of provider. Oh, sorry, I needed to finish this diagram. So we needed the default constructor, we needed the fully parameterized constructor, and then we needed to make sure here for our P, this is important because this has not been done before, is you'll literally use your default constructor of the pupil to initialize your default values of your, if you didn't receive any parameters, you use your default values, your default constructors. And then date taken will just equal to 0. Here it's a fully parameterized, that's fine, and I wanted setters and getters for the P and the B and the date. So all three setters and getters and setters, all three done. So alt insert is your friend. Last one, toString, not constructor, alt insert, toString, generate, done. Now, next question states there, modify the toString of the book class to have title by author. You must be age restriction to read this book on a new line. So we go back to our book class that wants the title. So we delete all this stuff because the first thing it wants is the title. It then wants a space in it to say by, so we literally just modify it, say by. So literally we are appending. We're saying add the title variable, append on the end of it a text by, add the author, and then I wanted a \n, and then I wanted to say you must be. Interesting, there was single inverted commas there, that's a character. We can't work with a character, we're working with a string, and we're going to say must be age restriction years old, if I'm correct, to read this book. Okay, so that is done. I don't know if I did it exactly like this, but I don't have the time. Next one goes toString pupil class. It says there it should be pupil pn, pupil number, dash, name, age, space, age. So done, we go to pupil. Then it says it wants the pupil number, so it wanted to start off with pn actually. So I wanted to say there pn followed by the pupil number. Stop freezing, stupid computer. No. The network's down. Network's back up now. So it wants it pn here. It then wants it to follow by the pupil number. It then wants it to say pn. It then wanted a dash, if I'm correct. It was a dash, and then a p name. So then it wanted space dash space p name. It then wanted a space with the age, and then space the age. It didn't want any close bracket at the end. Done. So we've modified the formatting of our two strings to return it in a text in such a way that it looks pretty. And the next question was with the logs, it wants the book taken out by the pupil on the date. So Control S, we go to our log. We will go p, no, it's plus there, \n taken out by \n because we wanted a new line. Then we want to put b, and then we wanted a new line \n on the space, and then to put the date taken. You must make it exactly like it asked there. I'm having double check mine, but you would double check yours to make sure it's there. The next question says create a method called is_young. Now this is the first time you guys have encountered a method like this, and I would like, anyway, so the log class, create a method called is_young which will return the text the pupil is too young, or if the pupil is not, return the pupil can read this book. Ooh, what the hell is happening here? Firstly, I'm in the log class. It wants me to create a method. I know a method, if it's unspecified what accessor it should be. Obviously, if you want to access it from outside this class, it must be public. Second thing, it told me it's going to return text. What data type is text? So I'm going to then say string, which means public. String means this method will return a string. And it should be called is_young. Now, it didn't say this method should receive anything through the parameters because it's looking at stuff which are part of the fields. Rico, you get this?
Yeah.
Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, now, the next step it says if the person is too young. Now, how are we going to know if the person is too young? We're going to take a look at the book's age restriction, right? And we're going to compare it to the pupil's age. So if the age restriction is greater than the pupil's age, then we want to get it. So now, I want to do it like this. You don't have to. You can do it in one step, but I'm going to do it in multiple steps because it will make more sense to you guys. So if I go pupil's age, I'm going to say it's equal to p.getAge. That's why we usually have our accessors. So pupil age is going to now hold whoever this log is, whatever log has been entered here, it's going to hold the pupil age. Do you get that? This is a temporary variable. I'm then going to say int age restriction is equal to b.getAge. age restriction. So now age restriction is going to contain the age restriction of the book. Do you guys get that? Now in this case, I'm literally going to say if pupil age is less than age restriction, then return, open brackets, is too young, right? Else, I don't know remember what it said, but that's not how you spell else, just to let you know. Else, you will, guys, one thing you'll notice that I do is I tend to not, now you'll notice there's a red underline here, and the reason why is because I'm saying I'm going to return a string, and I haven't always returned a string. There's a possibility this method could run without returning a string. So I'm going to say return, so you need to make sure every bracket you open, you close. So return can read book, or whatever. I don't actually know what it asked me to return, but you guys will read that. Does that make sense? So now that is done. This method will get the age and return it. Now, what I was talking about earlier, technically, I could have done this. Does that make sense? I wouldn't have had to do this at all. Because I'm just literally comparing the get age of P to the get age restriction of B, the book. I could do that. I did it like this purely because you guys are a bit new to this. So I'm going to leave it like this for now, but just so that you guys are aware, both ways there's no difference. It's a temporary variable. Also, an interesting thing that Java does for us, this int pupil age, it reserves a memory part in RAM. When that method is complete, it will automatically unreserve that memory location. In some more hardcore languages, or some more lower order level languages, you have to tell the computer unreserve that memory location. Does that make sense? Java does it for you. When an object or a method stops, it will deallocate that memory reservation. And that's when you get memory leaks. And I don't know if you guys have ever worked with applications or played a game where it starts, the more you play it, the more it just starts tying up RAM. That's because it's literally not, it's making memory reservations which aren't even used anymore, and it just keeps on reserving more memory for no reason. Okay, but this does it for us. We don't need to worry about that. Now the next question states, so do you guys get this? It says 3.2, call this function the toString so that the result will be given after. So in the toString, we would then say, I'm going to put it on a new line. It didn't ask me that, but you can do it whatever you want because it didn't really specify. And then it said plus, so I just literally run the method is too young. So now what it'll do is it'll put whatever this returns from is too young at the end of the toString there. Yes, correct this on. Now, is young, that's that one done. And we added it to the toString. The next one, it says create a GUI form. I've taken all of those steps out for you. I've done it. I've created you a frame that looks like this. So these next couple of steps, I'm going to show it to you, but you guys won't have to do that because these steps 4.1 down to 4.6. And literally what I had done in the exam is I pretty much copied and pasted this and changed a few things because obviously the scenarios are different and whatever. But I do kind of agree that if you mess this up and you can't get this right, it screws you over for everything else. Anyway, and also I was worried about the timing of the exam. So it's right-click, new, JFrame form. I want it under Pacman. Why are you not giving me that option, Pacman? And I'm going to call it GUI. Finish. I'm then going to set the layout to be border layout. So you set layout, border layout. I'm then going to put a panel in the south. I'm then going to put a Java area, JText area in the top here. I'm going to change the variable name of this to be txt display. I'm going to change, I want to add 2 buttons to here, 3 buttons. So button, button, button. Right click, set layout to grid layout. Grid layout, change the grid layout to be 3 columns by 1 row. You can see I've done this too much. Edit text, it was then book, it was a pupil then book, it was books. Right click, edit text, books, it would then be pupils, it'll then be logs. So basically just ask us to create those 3 buttons. Now, from here on in, you're going to have to pay attention because now the GUI has been created and this you will have to do. The first thing it says, declare 2 fields in your GUI class called B1 and B2. Now in this case, we now go back to the source of our GUI, and we're not designing the GUI, we're going back to the source. And now it asks us to create fields. So the same way we create fields in the other case, we create it here. So we go private P1, pupil, P1, comma P2. If we're doing the same things of the same data type, we don't have to do it on different lines. We can just declare them P1, comma P2. We can list out all of them. It then wanted me to create for book. Let me zoom in so that it's easier for the video. B1, comma B2. So far, you guys good, right?
Yes, sir.
Now, the next one is private log L1, comma L2. Done. Those are those questions done. 1.2, 4.2.1, 4.2.2, 4.2.3. You're just literally creating fields of the data types pupil, book, and log. Like what I was showing you guys here on Excel, we created one called P1, P2, B1, B2, and in this case this is just B and P. Yeah, I'll get your question now, just give me a second. Yeah. Now what you'll see is that, I know these look like weird, but these are L's. Now the next question states to me that we need to initialize these. It says there, okay, please initialize P1 as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, Tom Jones 15. So I go here, I say P1 is equal to new, so we use our constructors, and we use our fully parameterized constructor, and we say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is the pupil number. The pupil name was Tom Jones, and the age was 15. So we literally send through as the parameters. Now I know I make that look easy, but literally you're using the fully parameterized constructor we created, and we're sending through the values that we want to initialize it as. In this case, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, Tom Jones, and 15. So to go through that again, now we want to do P2. So we go as equal to new, we then go pupil, and we choose our constructor. We coded this, and it's showing it us here. I'll even show you later on how you can actually add Java documentation to your program. So it'll give you advice on when you're using it. But literally, we're accessing it. So now we're going to say pupil, it expects pupil number, pupil string name, it tells me there in the explanation, and then the age. So now if I go back, it now wants 18092 Sander, Sander Salt 17. So 18092 Sander Salt. I think that was meant to be Sandra, but my bad. We don't fix it. We do exactly what the exam asks us to do. And then in this case, it then asks for B1 is equal to, again, same thing. We use the fully parameterized constructor of book, and we will then send through the title, which if we look at our title, it then asks for Wizard's first rule, Terry Goodkind 16. So Wizard's first rule, this is a string as well, Terry Goodkind, and then it's PG, sorry, it's parental guidance. Now you can't have parental guidance over a book. But anyway, and then B2 is equal to new, same thing. We'll go and use our fully parameterized constructor. We'll send through the title, Stone of Tears, also by Terry Goodkind. You can see I don't read that many books, which is sad. I should really start reading more books. Author was Terry Goodkind as well. And then the age was, what is the age for this? What's the 16? Okay, so the next question asks me, initialize L1, initialize the following. P1 was taken by B1 on this date. I actually meant to, and I've fixed it I think in the Word document, but I haven't fixed it in the PDF. I wanted you to initialize two L2s. I wanted pupil 2 to take book 2 out on a different date. So I'm going to do that anyway. So I'm going to say L1 is equal to new log. That's not how you spell new, log. And then I'm going to use, oh look, pupil book date taken. So now I can say P1 was taken by B1, and the date taken was 2016-11-01, because that's today's date. Okay, I know that's maybe not what the question asked. You guys will just answer what the question asked. And then I'm going to say L2 is equal to new log, and I'll say P2 took B2 on 2016-10-20. So 10 days ago, or whatever days ago. Now, literally, we've got P1 and P2, B1, B2, L1, L2. Like as we've got an Excel here, we got this literally will then point towards I12. So this will point towards R12, and this will point, so this is L2, L2, this will point to J12. And this will have there, so this will have pupil book 1, which is E5, was taken by pupil 1, book 2, F5, was taken by F12. Now, and then there'll be date taken, I'm just going to call this taken for saving space, and that would then be 2016 11/01, and this will be that's not cool, and this will be 2016 10/7 or whatever. So do you guys get the fact that the memory, this does not create a duplicate copy of the book or the pupil? Only one object is created in RAM. The memory reference is held inside the log. So when I pass the memory reference by saying P1, B1, I'm not creating a new object, I've just created a new pointer. It's like me saying Dylan exists. Okay? This coffee mug, I understand Dylan. I understand him as Dylan. But now let's say Kyla understands Dylan's name to be, damn it. Oh, okay, Kiara. I'm sorry, Kiara. Yes, we are. Damn it. No. Yeah, Kiara. I'm sorry, Kiara. Now knows him as Mr. White. I know. Let's say he knows him as Mr. White. Then both of us are referring to the same object. We just know them differently. Does that make sense? So both of us, there's no new object created. Well, technically, you both even call them Dylan, but from two different locations, we're pointing to the same object. Does that kind of make sense? I'm sorry. Okay. Now, the next one. Continue. This is now done. Let's just run it so we can see that everything's working. So if we go play, okay. Now it's going to pop up on a different screen. But now you'll see that I've got my, whoa, let's not make it that big, so that's a bit crazy. You'll see that I've got my 3 buttons here. Ooh, I haven't coded my buttons. I haven't finished, have I? Step 2, step 4.2.5. Create a method called display pupils. So, if I go to my GUI now and I go to my code, I want to create a method called public void display pupils. Now, I'm actually going to create these methods for you, and you're just going to have to code inside them. But display books was the next one it asked me to create, and it then asked me to create another method called public void display logs. So it's asking me to create methods to do that. So now I'm going to say, on this one, I'm going to say txt display.setText, which is my variable to do that, is equal to b, so this is pupil p1.toString plus a enter. Do you guys get that? I want to put 2 enters. Why would I put 2 enters there? Separate their lines. So there'll be pupil 1, a line blank, and then there'll be pupil 2. So then plus p2. So literally inside my set text, I'm going to say, now, do you notice I'm saying toString for p1? I am not saying toString for p2. And the reason why I'm showing you that is the reason why toStrings exist is when an object expects a string to be displayed, it automatically calls the toString method. So the toString method is the text representation of the class you've got there. And I'll teach you a bit more about that next year. Now for the next one, I'm going to go copy, paste, because I'm lazy, and I'm then going to say B1, B2. The next one, same thing, but now I'm going to say L1, L2. It then asks me, to my design, to go ahead and code it so that each button will be associated with one of the methods. So I'm going to go right-click event action performed, or I can go double-click on it, same thing. It does the action performed defaultly. In this case, I'm going to say display pupils. In the next instance of the pupils, I'm then going to go display pupil. Nope. Which one should this be? Books. And on the next one, for the logs, I'm then, oh damn it, I swapped them around. So now when we click on pupils, it's going to do logs. And okay, let's swap it around. And this is going to display logs. Okay. So this one's going to be pupils, and this one's going to be books. So books, fail, Control S. If I now run this, and it will pop it up on the other screen. I'm going to put this over here. And if I click books, there's my 2 books, hold and ram. If I go pupils, there's my 2 pupils, hold and ram. If I now go logs, it will say Tom Jones, age 15. What did I do wrong with my 2 string? I displayed a pupil taken out by a book. You must be 16 years old on the 2016 is too young. So he's too young. Okay, so basically my pupil and my book is the complete wrong order. It should say book is taken out by a pupil. And I messed up with the with regards to can read the book or can't read the book. Okay, so to fix that, we go back to our log, and here in my 2 string, I should say B for book is taken out by P on the date and is too young. Now what I don't understand is why there was dates as well, and I think it's because my pupil has age, that's fine, dash age that, the book has my 2 string by you must be here to read this book. Okay, so let's go look at this now. I press play, let's take a look if that looks better, but that will fix it is put in the right, more correct. Okay, logs. Stone of Tears by Terry Goodkind. You must be 16 years old to be taken out by P and whatever Sandra on that date can read this book. It's not the prettiest of formats. The way I did my 2 strings, it didn't turn it out so lacquer, but it's not too bad either. Okay, you guys happy? End of the video, goodbye.